Everyone, this is Sunny Justice from It's a Crime and Shame. So before we get started, if you're not subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell so you get all the notifications when we do a live or put out a video. Also, if you can give a like and a share, that would be great. So thank you so much for that. Now in this video, we're going to talk about a couple different stories going on. Number one being JonBenet Ramsey. I'm sure that everyone remembers this beautiful child that was taken on December 26th of 1996. It's a story that most people haven't forgotten, including myself, and it has always weighed heavily on my heart. So now we're going to talk about John and Patsy Ramsey. We both know that the focus was on those two family members, including the son, Burke. Now, over the years, again, 26 years later, something new has surfaced in the case, and that is the DNA. And so this information that you'll hear John talking about, it was something that they had no idea that this information hadn't been released to the prosecutors. So when Ron Logan, just like that case, of Delphi, that it was focused on so much that it's almost like nothing else around it seemed to, be the point of focus elsewhere. Well, the same thing obviously with the JonBenet Ramsey case. So I'm going to let you listen to Ashley Banfield with John Ramsey talking about the new information and the DNA that has surfaced. So take a listen.
I think it's critical that people know what happened just weeks after. There's a new report from Fox News Digital saying that in 1997, a DNA test was done on evidence that was found underneath JonBenet's fingernails and from her clothes, and it proved that it was not a match for any of the family members of JonBenet or others close to the family. According to an author named John W. Anderson, the findings were given to a Boulder detective who did not share that with prosecutors for months. And of course, as you know, John and Patsy Ramsey were under an umbrella of suspicion for years. Did they have to be? John Ramsey is kind enough to join me live tonight. John, it's just so distressing as drip, 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 we hear these things. And all the while, there you were, excoriated by the public. And no one came to your rescue. Does it feel vindicating to hear it now, or is it hollow?
Well, no, it's eventually the truth comes out, and it just takes a while. And, this has taken 26 years to come out. But, the part we didn't know was that the police withheld that information from the prosecuting attorney for months. And the fundamental problem was that they wanted us to be guilty. They decided on day one that daughter, and they just had to go about assembling a case and present it to the prosecutor and off to trial. When this DNA came up that said, no, we have unidentified male DNA, that was a problem for them. And they tried for months and frankly for years to explain it away. It just shows you when police jump to conclusions quickly, they can go horribly wrong, and they did in this case. It has been frustrating for a long time. Now we've seen some progress. They've had very poor leadership for years. Now they have a relatively new police chief. She seems to be pretty sharp. She says the right thing. So in terms of what we'd like to hear, and so we'll see. But I believe we are making some progress.
This is the statement from the Boulder PIO, Dion Waugh. It says, we recognize that many articles and books have been written about this tragic homicide. We have not read this newest book, which apparently contains allegations from the late 1990s. John, I've said it before, I'll say it again on behalf of the press that just destroyed you and your family. I am so sorry for what you have all gone through. And you know what? I look forward to continuing interviews with you when there's more information about justice and resolution. Thank you for coming on tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me, and it's been a pleasure.
Okay, so that's, of course, with the JonBenet Ramsey story. And I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts on there. So, a book has come out, And again, and there's been lots of many books over the years. But of course, what do you guys think of this? Again, John thinks that it's moving in the right direction. And so, of course, I just want to know what your guys' thoughts are. Okay, you guys, so now we're going to talk about the Idaho case and this new information about Ethan's friend. Ethan's friend is the one that called 911 and used the roommate's phone, probably Dylan's. Okay, so what? Wait, what? So before calling the police or anything like that, we're going to call Ethan's friend and other people over. And this reminds me of something that we're going to talk about tonight on tonight's live. We're going to go over Delphi case tonight. We're going to go over the Idaho case tonight with Kelsey, and Kelsey's, again, timeline of events. We're going to refresh your memories on that because sometimes it's good to hear exactly what she had said. Now, as for the Idaho case, how many of you guys are like going, really, what? So anyways, I'm going to let you listen to Ashley Banfield again. And then again, on tonight's live, we'll be talking about this as well.
Conferences, that's given us a small picture. But what we haven't known is what happened prior to the first responders arriving on the scene. And tonight I can tell you. You have heard that the 911 call was made from a surviving roommate's cell phone. But we can now tell you who it was who made that call. I'm not going to name the person, but it was Ethan's best friend who made the 911 call. And that's because it was Ethan's best friend who made the discovery of Xana and Ethan's bodies. And that is a very tragic and sad detail to report. Up until now, it had been an assumption that there was maybe an unconscious person because it was a guess that there was someone behind the door who wasn't answering a bedroom door. Now we can tell you that it was Ethan's best friend who had been called over that morning and made the discovery and took Ethan's pulse. Also called out to get 911 on the phone. It is more than likely that the phone that was used to call 911 was surviving roommate Dylan Mortenson's cell phone. You have probably heard up until now that it was an unconscious person that the dispatch said over the radio. But that's not unusual because when there's confusion, it's standard protocol, according to an article that came out recently in Airmail. Standard protocol, if there's confusion, just to skip the necessities of getting clarity and just dispatch the first responders for an unconscious person, regardless of what the actual situation is. So for anyone getting caught up on an unconscious person, probably not a good idea, given the fact that that's just sort of a standard description for get moving. We need people on the location. Again, this is multiple sources tonight with knowledge of the investigation telling us about who made the discovery of Ethan's body and then, of course, of Xana's body. What I can tell you is who made the discovery of Maddie and Kaylee on the third floor. I'm not sure if it was any of the other kids who were called over. What is interesting about this whole scenario that played out that morning was that kids came over to the home and then 911 was called. So who knows if there was any knowledge of the carnage that had taken place in that home before the kids came over. I mean, it's college, right? It's Sunday morning after a fun Saturday night. And maybe, just maybe, kids were coming over to, get together and go out for a Sunday brunch. But some kids who are unidentified at this time went over to the house that morning, and it was Ethan's best friend who made that discovery and took Ethan's pulse and yelled for them to call 911 and ultimately got on the phone on Dylan Mortenson's phone and talked to the 911 operators. I want to bring in News Nation senior national correspondent Brian Enton. Brian has been at the forefront of reporting this story. It's such an uncomfortable detail, but it is one piece of the puzzle that we've been trying to figure out in terms of why it's so complicated, that scene.
Yeah, so much of this has been confusing based on the reports we've gotten from police. There have been so many holes and things that they haven't shared. I think beginning with your exclusive reporting last week, things started to make a little bit more sense in terms of surviving roommate Dylan and the fact that she may have thought that there were noises coming from upstairs, but not necessarily noises that meant that something bad was happening. Or that started to explain why she may have not initially called 911, in the middle of the night. Your exclusive reporting sort of shed light on that. And now I think this sort of continues to, again, put the pieces together now to know that there were people who came to the house that morning. And it would make sense, what you said about the unconscious person, that may have just been a categorization that the 911 call was put under. But certainly tragic, as you said, to think that Ethan's best friend, took the pulse. I mean, it's all just so heartbreaking.
So you guys, with the Idaho case, leave me your thoughts about the Idaho case in the description or the comment section of this video. Again, a lot going on. There's a lot of cases going on right now. This channel doesn't really cover the Murdaugh case, but perhaps we will as well put some updates in on that. Adam knows more about that case than I do. I've watched little bits and pieces. But anyways, let's move on to the Nicola Bulley case that's out of Lancashire, UK. Okay, so strange case. I think you can all agree with me on this one. Something that's kind of simple, yet very complex by the same token. So we got three things kind of going on here. We got the water, we got the abduction theory, and we have basically that she just left her life. So again, if she left her life, why did she make a play date? Why did she take the dog with her? Doesn't really make sense. Falling into the water. Okay. Was there alcohol involved? Because we all know that this report of alcohol issues was going on, that there was a welfare check on January 10th, and January 27th of this year, she disappeared. So what happened? Did she trip over a dog? Was there alcohol issue involved? And that's why they're focusing on the water. Or abducted. Her phone is found on the bench. At 9:10, she's in the top of the upper field. At 9:20, she starts heading back. Her phone's logged into TeamSpeak at 9:33. A passerby comes by and sees the phone. So just think about it. 9:20, her phone is heading back over. So who has her phone? Does she have her phone as it's heading back over to the bench? Or what? Very strange case. This one really boggles my brain, because how does somebody just disappear? Right? I mean, people do disappear, and there's quite a bit of footage of camera, and they're saying that if she went to the right near the grapes, well, she couldn't have gone that way. It had to be disappearing before that, because they got all the footage around there. And so basically they're placing her in the park and haven't seen anything to show that she has left that park. Again, strange case. Leave your comments in the comment section of this video. Thank you guys for watching. See you tonight at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll be covering Idaho and, of course, Delphi. And perhaps we'll touch upon the Nicola Bulley case there as well.
We know that Nicola entered the field and made a couple of messages on her mobile phone. One to her boss and one to a friend, making arrangements for a play date for her children. And at 9:01, we know she logged into a work call on Teams. Again, there has been lots of speculation about this. This was a perfectly normal call for Nicola to have. It was work related. She would never have had the microphone or camera on, because it was more of an informative session. She didn't need to sign into it. She did so to enable her with her business. So I know there have been inquiries as to whether anybody else on the Teams call would have been able to hear or provide us with any information. I can assure you from the outset that was investigated thoroughly, and that is not the case. We know at this time that there were a number of dog walkers in the area, and we've been extremely fortunate from the very start of this inquiry to have a number of witnesses, key witnesses, who know Nicola. So there is no miscommunication about the identification of who was in that field. And also, we've viewed a substantial amount of CCTV. Again, whilst we can't cover the whole area with CCTV, we've been really fortunate in that we've had a lot, which has really been able to help us in pin down both Nicola's movements and also the movements of key witnesses, which is why we were able to give a timeline of events quite quickly, but reiterating that we were remaining open-minded to all three of those scenarios. So Nicola was last seen in the field, which we've called the upper field, at about 9:10 that morning. At that time, everything seemed normal. She was walking her dog Willow, who was off the lead. And again, a number of issues and inconsistencies have been raised in relation to Willow and her harness. It was really normal for Willow not to have her harness on. They never kept the harness on when they were in that field. The harness would be taken off Willow when they entered the field and would only be put back on when they were ready to leave the field. So at approximately 9:10, a witness that knows her had the last sighting, and that was at the upper field. And when I say an approximate time, it is that, but we are basing that on obviously the times that we can say that witness left the field. So I'm quite confident it is around that time. We then know from digital data that at some time around 9:20, we believe that Nicola's handset had moved towards the bench area. Again, there have been questions raised about her phone, whether that would have been in her possession when whatever happened has happened. But again, I'd just like to point out that it's really normal for Nicola, when in a Teams call, to be holding her phone out in front of her, listening to it. And we can say, from a witness that knows her that morning, that is what she was doing. So that would explain why she doesn't have her phone in her pocket, as I know a number of people have raised. We then know at about 9:33, a local dog walker who is walking a dog comes across the bench and finds Willow untied, running between the bench and the gate. The mobile phone is on the bench, face upwards, still logged into the Teams call, and Willow's harness is halfway between the bench and the riverside. That witness makes a number, before returning home, she then returns and makes a number of phone calls to people, because at that point she doesn't know who the dog belongs to or who the phone belongs to, and doesn't know how to get in touch with people. She makes a number of inquiries with a local vet who can't assist her, and following a number of inquiries, eventually people return to the bench, recover the handset and Willow, and we find out that obviously they belong to Nicola. The alarm is then raised with the local school, who then in turn contact Paul, Nicola's partner, who then makes to the scene. Just moving on to CCTV.
Okay, you guys, so there you have it. That was 3 cases that we went over, and I'm going to leave you guys with this. This is a timeline of Nicola Bulley's last known movements, and I added in the 921 that was also brought in there. And then there's a little tweaking. It should say 9:33 that her phone was found, that somebody came across it. Close enough, 9:35. Anyways, you guys, okay, don't forget to give this video a like and a share, and again, see you on tonight's live.